Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us for the October session of the From the Bench Virtual Studio Tour Series. My name is Sarah Songer, and I'm the Program and Studio Manager at San Francisco Center for the Book, and today we're thrilled to have Mary Bruno as our guest. Mary Bruno is a nationally recognized artist from rural St. Joseph, Minnesota. She uses her antique letterpresses to connect with and unite modern humanity. Her humor shines in her lines of irreverent greeting cards, and her meticulous linoleum carving skills are captured in her fine art prints. She is a speaker, a teacher, an artist, a leader, and a mentor. Artwork is a passion of hers, and she lives to share it with others while preserving the old school craft of letterpress printing. With that, there's Mary.
Hello. Yeah, okay. So I am going to give you a little tour around the shop and tell you about some stuff. Then I'm going to show you some of the things I create, including a really epic project. And then we're just going to like chat about stuff, and you're going to, ask me things and whatnot. So for right now, we're going to cruise around the shop because it's cool. It's a really sweet space. So delete. Here it is. Okay, so that's outside, and actually I have a pop machine that I had to move outside because I just got a new cabinet of type. There's my dog Snow, shop dog. So it's basically a garage that was added onto. So there it is. That's the big magical table that I work on, and there's like shit everywhere, and the place that I can hang everything up is on the ceiling. So the ceiling has all kinds of posters I've collected and printed. There's my Pressing Matters issue that I'm in, which is super exciting. So yeah, like I have kind of a little bit of a retail space in my shop because I host events and open houses and stuff. So I have stuff everywhere. It's kind of organized. It works. I have it clean now, which happens every once in a while. So let's see which way I'm starting here. See my racks of cards. So lots of type that mostly my dad had collected, and then a lot of type cases that have been donated to me. All kinds of little cards and coasters and stuff, and on my insane calendar, shit to do, my little retail sales area. I have a massive collection of whiskey that keeps me sane, and that's all my shipping stuff for shipping out orders. This is my big Heidelberg windmill that Amos Paul Kennedy helped me get. I've had that for about 5 years. This is the little water cooler area where gossip happens. There's Snow again. There's my little Trimo saw, which I love and I use all the time. She's a beaut. I got a little record player in here. I got a sweet sound system, which is lovely. That's the new case of type I just got, which has Cooper Black for days, which makes me really happy. There's a whole bunch more type. I got a little foil stamper, and I'll come back to that vessel thing when I tell you a different story. Yeah, foil stamper, coffee stuff, more type. I have good amount of wood type and all kinds of random things that either my dad had collected or I've acquired. It's a giant poster of me. Here's my CMP that is 10 by 15 that I print most of my cards on. My big challenge paper cutter, more type and some frame stuff, and a little baby Kelsey that I sometimes take when I go do workshops and stuff. More stuff for interns to put away. This poster I just printed yesterday, which I'll show you in a moment. All my ink and ink knives, and that's where I mix all my ink and stuff. There's Snow again. She's just following me around. Here's more of my fine art prints, which are mostly reduction prints. I'll come back to why I have a bunch of kids stuff down there too. That Joetown print, that's the little town that I live in. This is the San Francisco print I did while I was in San Francisco a couple months ago. I'll show you that too. That's where I set up all my chases for the Heidelberg and the CMP, and there's all my type set from cards or whatever I'm printing. There's the Vandy. That's my number 4 that I do all my posters and art on. She's lovely. Bunch of wood type and furniture. Accidentally awesome. That was Sharon printed that for me because that was something I said when I was there. Lino blocks for as far as the eye can see. And I keep some, I reuse some, I get rid of some, and then I have, this is like where most of my posters live. I have a cool guy that designs these little displays for me. This is my other little retail space. Got some cards. These are digitally printed cards about the scroll, which I will tell you about next. Some cool lists and little printed stuff everywhere. Some swag, t-shirts and kid stuff and box sets. And like my cards are mainly, well, they're one of my main sources of income, but maybe not. I don't know if it is anymore, but they're funny. I've been making these cards for almost 15 years now. And they're kind of sweary, kind of funny, especially in Minnesota, you know, it's all Minnesota nice here. So folks love that stuff. I think maybe that's it. Oh yeah, there's my spot where I carve. I'm getting started on a new poster today when I'm done with this. Oh yeah, and this is my new obsession. I just bought a little vending machine that I have loaded up with mini prints for $1. I just had an event a couple weeks ago and I sold out of them. Here's the little guys. No, I think there's maybe a couple left, but I put some little watercolored ones hidden in there too, so it was pretty awesome. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. So that's the tour. Have I stopped? Oh yeah, stop. Okay. So now I'll just tell you quickly how I got started with this whole thing. It started with my dad, he was a designer, and so we lived in Pennsylvania, and he had just gotten his master's in design and typography, and he got a teaching job here in St. Joe at the College of St. Benedict. So that's why we moved to this puny little town in the middle of Minnesota. And so he taught at St. Ben's for a bunch of years. And then he moved on to St. Cloud State, which is about 10 miles away. And he worked in the art department there for a bunch of years. So I think it was like maybe the mid 80s. He was hanging out with all these old printers because he loved design and he loved type. And he really liked the old presses and the old dudes. So whenever that new technology kind of came onto the scene, they were just kind of dumping everything. And my dad was right place, right time. He's like, can I have this stuff? And they're like, yeah, dude, if you can move it, it's yours. So, you know, at this little house I grew up in, there was just a 1-car garage. So over the course of a summer, he built on this studio and kind of built around these big presses and these big stone tables and type. I think it was kind of, he just wanted it to be a side hustle a little bit. And he was doing design and posters for people like in the area. And he was kind of a big deal. He did really beautiful silkscreen posters for the theater department at St. Cloud State for like years. And he got some press for that. So then, you know, coming up in high school, I spent time in the shop with him doing stuff, carving lino blocks. That was my jam starting in like 9th grade. And I've just always done it. So then I went to St. Cloud State and got a BFA in printmaking, which basically I didn't want to teach, so I figured it would also be a hobby for me too, you know. So I moved away to Madison and worked 100 million different jobs that had nothing to do with anything, but I would always come home and print with my dad. You know, I was like still doing lino prints, and I would get kind of little shows in Madison, whatever. And so then the big kind of turning point was my dad passed away real suddenly in 2003. So I had been in Madison for about 7 years, maybe 8. And so I think for the first time I was like, okay, I think I have a little calling to go back to St. Joe, which I was not very excited about, besides the fact that, you know, my dad had passed away. I just really didn't see myself in this small town. But regardless, I came back. And it sucked being in the shop without him and how he left it. But I would drag my 14-year-old niece in the shop with me just to try to like get over the hump, and we would just start printing funny swears on cards because there was no adults around. And so that was kind of how the cards started. I had no business skills. I mean, some would say I still don't, but you know, had to figure stuff out. So the cards, especially in Minnesota, when, you know, this is like 17 years ago, nobody was doing this. I mean, some people, but so some people started telling me I should go to the stationery show in New York. And I was like, okay. I don't know how I did it or how I afforded it, but I went to the National Stationery Show for about 5 or 6 years, and I'd bring an intern with, and I'd party and I'd sell stuff. The cool thing, I think what was my little edge for standing out was that, you know, it was before I was eyeballs deep in social media. So I had no idea what was trending or what was cool, what everyone was doing. I was just printing things I thought was funny. Like my target demographic was 100% myself. So all these buyers were like, where did you come from? And this stuff doesn't look like anyone else's, even though everyone else's stuff looked like everyone else. So the cards really got me on the map. I had some reps on the East and West Coast, which I didn't even know what a rep was. And they would fax me orders. I didn't even have a fax machine, but I would have them fax it to this preschool down the street. And then I'd get my faxes. Like I was making good money on the cards for maybe 4 or 5 years. And then I started to get burnt out on it because like these reps, you know, they're like, we need new SKUs, like 25 new SKUs every quarter. And I started printing non-funny, lame stuff because I couldn't cue the funny like that. So I just started branching out, stepping away from that a little bit, and doing more of what I love, which is posters and art and organizing all kinds of community stuff in a small town. Like, yes, I came around and did fall in love with the small town eventually. Little bit of a big fish in a little pond, which is kind of nice. Okay, so I know I talk really fast. I don't know how much time has even gone by, but I'll just show you some stuff, and then
We're doing great.
I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, you've seen some of the cards, sweary, but like, you know, this kind of thing, which it's backwards. I understand that. I didn't do a little PowerPoint, but like, sorry, I'm a dick, and you're so lucky I have low standards. Get well, faker. You know, that's the kind of stuff that goes gangbusters for me. So I still do the cards, and I just have my cards on Fair now, and they just do their own thing, which is great. So
Wait, Mary, on what?
Fair. Do you know what Fair is?
I don't. Will you tell us?
Oh, well, it's like kind of Etsy for retailers. So like retailers go onto Fair, and there's all these makers that make, in theory, I mean, I would hope, make the stuff themselves. It's not stuff that's made in far distant lands. So most of the people, you know, that I know are on this, and apparently, I mean, it does well for me. It's not like insane, but it's pretty cool. I don't know. I'm curious what other people would say, but that just does its own thing. Orders come in. It's good. So yeah, that makes sense. So this is the poster I just did last night. That was the type you saw. Just do shit to do shit, because new shit is good shit, and cool shit is fun shit, and real shit is the shit, which kind of resonates with me. So this feller is a guy I follow on Instagram, and he's kind of a modern day prophet as I see it, but with swears. And so I reached out to him. I'm like, dude, you're awesome. Can I print some of your stuff? And he's like, yeah, just give me credit. So that was a new guy. This one's new too. That's pretty lino block, big wood type. This is my favorite kind of stuff, right? This is the one I did when I was in J Tree recently, earlier this year. That's a reduction. She's a beaut. Don't you have that one, Sarah? I thought I saw that one at your place. Maybe not. So that's cool. Let's see. This was another one, like more big wood type. Decisions are best made by the people affected by them. Amen to that. Oh, then there's this guy. This guy. This is the one that I just did while I was there. You can see my light, which is annoying, but that's the San Francisco, the bridges. And this was I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 reduction, 6 color reduction block. I did this at Taya Sizemore's place, Cobblemore Press, which I'm sure you guys know who she is. She's a rock star. And so I got to come out and go to the Center for Book there. So like I love that stuff. You know, the art stuff is like super special. Posters I love. And so now recently, in the last couple years, you know, I would try to like hold workshops, but I would always have a hard time filling them. You know, everyone would ask about them, but then I'd pick a date and not enough people would sign up. So I'd be like, all right, screw this. I'm going to start doing a thing where you bring the group of people and I teach you letterpress. So I call them private print parties. And they're kind of blowing up right now. I feel like people don't understand what letterpress is unless they're like you guys, you know, who already know. But, you know, people think I'm like making balloon animals or scrapbooking. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But once they step in the shop, then their mind blows up and they're like, wow, and they can smell and they can see, they can hear the presses. So that's like my current mission of like trying to preserve this craft by like just sharing it with people. So I get like corporate groups and I get like birthday parties and stuff like that, and like student groups, which is really awesome. I just had a group from Big Brothers Big Sisters, which we did some pressure printing. Ooh, that's their logo. And then I set that type, and then everybody got to find some cool type and set their names, and then they all leave with a poster, which is beautiful. So let's see. Here's one. This was a group of gals that did like a Winnie the Pooh quote. Let's see what else. This was a birthday party, more pressure printing, and yada yada. This was a bank. These are a couple of banks. Good stuff. Yeah. So I do like having people in here. I do, you know, love that stuff. So, okay, how much time do I have now?
You got it's 49 after the hour, so we're in great shape.
Okay, so now I'll show you the scroll stuff. Is that a good time?
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so now I'll tell you this story before I show you this 2-minute video of so in this town there's the College of St. Benedict and St. John's University. You know, I do a lot with them. I have interns from those colleges, bunch of colleges, but I'm kind of like right in town with these two, and that was the school that my dad had also taught for too. So there's this like resident potter that's been out at St. John's University for like 40 years. His name is Richard Bresnahan, and he's like internationally known master potter. And him and I have gotten to be buds. Like he used to teach a class called like environmental art and architecture, and he'd bring him to my shop every semester. And we just got to be kind of close. And so he got some big pile of money from some donors that wanted a new sculpture garden. And so he had this whole plan and this vision of this thing he wanted to do. And he wanted to get me involved, which I'm like, okay, not really understanding what he wanted. Well, what he basically wanted was me to letterpress print this little book called The Rule of Saint Benedict. It's like it's like the rule of how the Benedictine folks should live, written by Saint Benedict. Okay, that doesn't really mean much to me, but sounds cool. So I, for the next 9 months, so that was like March, let's see, he asked me in late 2019. And so I started doing research and trying to figure stuff out and started working on it. I had some interns and had to research paper and, how do you make a scroll? How do you design religious text? So I got some people to help me, which was really cool. And then the pandy hits, I like to call it the pandy. And so it was a little bit of a blessing for me because I could just concentrate on this huge project that dropped in my lap at the perfect time rather than have to manage a million things like I do on a daily basis. So for about 9 months, I worked on this scroll, which I printed 1 page at a time on this Thai mulberry paper. We had wanted to use type, but it was like 90 pages, this book. So I was like, it's going to take me like 2 years. So we did polymer, which I don't usually do. No judgment, but we didn't want to blow our budget on handset type and it would just be a nightmare anyway. So we did plates from Boxcar and they were awesome. So printed the text, designed 18 images to be tucked into the text, carved those images out of linoleum, then printed the images, then colored the images, did some gold leaf, and then glued all the pages together, then had to build like this wood holder that would hold it. It's amazing. So that's like your little intro. So now I'm going to share my screen again. I'm getting good at this because I don't really understand stuff. Okay, is it going? No, there it is.
It has the countdown.
Yeah, countdown. Okay, so now you can watch this guy. Okay, so currently it's set up in this gallery on the campus of St. Ben. So I had the woodworking guys at St. John's build this display, which is epic. It's, almost 40 feet long. And so this is the 36-page scroll that I printed. So you can see like saints, and that's my little lady slipper in a Sacred Heart. That's the wood kiln that Richard has out at St. John's. I had to figure out like what text to pull out and all that. And, I figured that out by hanging out with some of the sisters at St. Ben's to ask them like, what are some of your favorite parts? Like I tried reading that several times and it kind of was a snoozer. So it was good to have the sisters helping me. Richard was really cool about it. He didn't really micromanage me even a little bit. He was just like, I want this to be done by a woman about the women of St. Ben's, which is not typical of those religious folks. So it was a big honor. I used a lot of imagery that they had in their archives, of sisters doing stuff and making stuff, singing. That's one of the chapels on campus. And there, I did have one of my dad's logos in there from the art department because I had to shout out little Don Bruno. Yeah, it's kind of amazing. I'm trying to have it be seen more because like, we had this opening finally in the 2021 after the pandemic sort of, and some people got to see it, but then it's just like sitting in my shop waiting for me to spill coffee on it. So I've been trying to have a scroll tour. And I did start. I went to a monastery in Coleman, Alabama about a month ago. I made these little books that tell the whole story. And I got to meet nuns from all over the world. And they were pretty rad. I made some little cards. Then you can see like, so that's the Rule of Saint Benedict. That's the book that I printed. And the whole thing is this scroll, I made 6 copies of it and I have one, and then one is inside this sculpture that Richard built that's on the campus of St. Ben's. And, I guess the way I understand it, because it's really complicated and I don't understand totally, but is that like this sculpture is like a time capsule, like it's packed with all these millions of different seeds, you know, that are packed specially, and then it's got this religious text. So maybe if like there was Armageddon, you know, the last survivors could pop that open, start a new civilization. So fascinating. Trying to figure out how to get this scroll to be seen. You know, I have a whole landing page on my website. If anyone wants to see any of that, be my guest. But it's pretty cool. Okay, did I stop it? No, I didn't. Now I did. Okay, so that's the nutshell, right? And now should we ask questions and talk about other stuff?
Sure. If anyone has questions for Mary, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'll get started. I also grew up in a print shop, and so I'm curious about like how much you helped with. Were you doing production? Were you helping your dad with production? Was it sort of like a formative work ethic situation for you? Or were you like kind of doing your own stuff, like sharing the space with him?
Well, you know, I mean, I have memories of doing that kind of stuff with him when he was teaching, you know, like I clean screens in the silk screen stuff, and I had to hang posters on clothespins, like up and down like this classroom. I remember doing that when I was younger, and I just had to do that stuff, and I was all about it. I think hanging out with my dad like that was probably what drove me in the artistic direction. But by the time he had the shop set up, you know, I did spend a lot of time in here helping him for sure, but he didn't do a ton of like production, right? You know, it was smaller edition stuff. So I would help him, but I'd also just be carving stuff. And he was like a really incredible linoleum carver too. So we every once in a while worked on stuff together, but you know, I loved being in here, so it never felt like I was working, you know, but yeah. Does that answer your question?
Is that the same look? Is this the same location?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is the house I grew up in, which my mom, God bless her, still lives here. Of course I do not, but I'm about 6 blocks away. Yeah, people always assume I live with her, and I'm just like, she would not be still with us if I live with her. But yeah, Mary Ann, she's all right. She fills orders for me. She's good at, you know, filling card orders.
Do you also do work with the tourism board, right?
Oh yeah, so
activities.
Yeah, so like you know, it's been like 17 years now since I've been here, and I think that I eventually wanted to, you know, I mean, like I'm a business person now, which means I've had to learn everything by doing it wrong 15 times first. But that's cool. So then I think like all these young business owners started to move into town, and they're cool, and they're really full of energy, and they want to do stuff. And so we started kind of working together to, first of all, we wanted to brand the town and like create our own tourism, because there's like this bigger neighboring town, St. Cloud, which sort of wanted to absorb us. And the mayor kind of got a couple of us together, and he's like, well, let's start our own thing so that we can be separate from them. So like I designed the Joe Town is what we call it. This is a little branding, and you know, we made these little maps and stuff. It's our tagline is, because you know, this was my tagline: small town warmth, big city cool, which is brilliant. And it's just cool. And so I organize a lot of events that we do in the town, like around the holidays. We do like a shop small. It's been happening for about 11 years. I host some events here. Like I did a women kind of like a reproductive rights event that was pretty awesome. That was a couple weeks ago. Yeah, so I'm kind of it's sometimes a big pain in the ass, but it is nice to be able to have all these relationships with these business owners, because when I want shit to happen, they're all like, okay, what do I need to do, you know? So, and we do a lot with the schools too. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I know you want to mention your partners in print class.
Oh yeah, so because I mean, I didn't really talk too much about reduction prints, but that is my jam, and you can see that on any of my social media if you so choose to follow Bruno Press. But I am teaching, I've done quite a few virtual classes with partners in print and kind of got it down. So it's cool to watch me do a reduction print, a 5-color reduction print in a 2-hour class. So I'm like, it's just really fast. So you can see like, you can see me carving, and then you can see me printing on the press, and I do that 5 times, and then everybody gets one of the prints that I make. So it's really cool. It's really fun.
Okay. Cool. I put a link in the chat if anyone's interested. Sounds like you said a couple spots left. And you know, we're at time because it flies. And right?
Yeah.
So I think we're good on questions then. Thank you, Mary, for squeezing us into what sounds like your insanely busy schedule, because I don't understand how you do all of the things that you just talked about doing. But
no, I don't know either.
Yep, but it seems to work. So
thanks for asking me, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And let's see, next month we'll meet with Paloma Lucas. She's a print maker and book artist here in San Francisco, and that's November 2nd. There'll be a link in the feedback email that you probably have already received. If you'd like to sign up, then we'll see you next month. And thank you again, Mary. Thank you all for coming.